All right. Welcome, everybody. Al Iverson here from Valimail. Today, we're going to talk about BIMI and how a BIMI logo can help you stand out in the inbox. We'll also touch on Valimail Amplify, CMCs and VMCs, and a whole bunch of other cool stuff as well. All of it laid out here in our agenda, but we'll skip right over that because we want to jump right into the content. Your presenters today include yours truly, Al Iverson. I am Industry Research and Community Engagement Lead for Valimail. We've also got Micaela Taboada from Valimail, who is the Product Manager for Valimail Amplify, and Dean Coclin from DigiCert to talk about certificates. Micaela and Dean, would you like to introduce yourselves?
Yes, thank you all. Okay, I will go ahead. Thank you everyone for joining us today to talk about BIMI and Amplify, which is our product here at Valimail. I am Micaela Taboada. I'm product manager at Valimail for the Enforce product. That it's our DMARC solution, helps you reach enforcement and maintain it. And also Amplify, which is a star for today's webinar. That it's our BIMI solution. So I will pass it over to Dean.
Thank you. And I'm Dean Coclin from DigiCert. I'm a senior director and a trust specialist at DigiCert. What that means is I get involved with different standards bodies and help the teams, the sales teams, where they need extra help in solution selling and product specialties.
All right. Thank you both. Let's kick things off. But first, a housekeeping note. Yes, we're recording this. Yes, we will share the link with you in email after, so no worries. If you have to dash at some point along the way, we will follow up and share this with folks. We'll give you a shareable link too. That won't be gated after the fact. Also, participants are entered into a drawing to win a Valimail and DigiCert swag box. So keep an eye out for a follow-up email for whoever might be lucky enough to win that. We'll contact you and figure out how to get it to you. First, let's talk about who is Valimail, just for a quick second. We are a leader in DMARC automation. We are a great enterprise-level solution to your DMARC problems. What we do here is we have automation and tools and monitoring that make it easy for the tough challenges of managing DMARC across a big enterprise where you have multiple domains, a whole bunch of things that would require manual DNS updates if you were doing it all manually, doing it the DIY method. And helping solve that, helping address that is something we are very good at. We've also got DigiCert here too, and I thought it'd be cool to give Dean a chance to talk about who DigiCert is and what they do.
Sure, thanks, Al. For those of you that are not familiar with the name DigiCert, I'm going to guess that you probably heard the name VeriSign. VeriSign was the first public certificate authority back in 1995 to issue digital certificates for websites. That company was bought by Symantec in 2010 and was subsequently purchased by DigiCert in 2017. So right now, DigiCert is the world's largest public commercial certificate authority, issuing certificates for many different purposes, not just SSL and websites, but also for things like BIMI and VMCs, and that's what we're going to focus on today.
Thank you, sir. Time for a quick survey. Megan, could you go ahead and kick that off? What we're going to ask folks today is if you would be kind enough to tell us what your job function is and how familiar are you with BIMI today? Give folks a few seconds to fill that out. All right. Thank you very much for sharing that with us. Let's, if you're not familiar with BIMI, let's kick things off by talking about what exactly is BIMI? What is a sender logo and what is the value of that? BIMI is, the acronym refers to Brand Indicators for Message Identification. Ultimately, it's most simply put, it is a sender logo. It lets an email sender control how their logo is going to be displayed next to their email messages, either in the inbox or in the message view, at webmail providers, in email applications, on mobile devices, and so forth. It is ultimately a branding opportunity. It lets you control how you will display, how your brand is visualized next to your email messages. How does it work? It's a DNS record, domain name service. You publish a text record in DNS. You link to a logo in a specific format. It's a very fussy, tiny, technical vector logo format. The way it works is it requires DMARC to be configured for a domain with an enforcement level policy, meaning quarantine or reject. And there's different levels of support for these logos by different service providers. And as you can see here, a bunch of different mailbox providers support BIMI. That means that sending to these mailbox providers in the first two columns here, if you have BIMI properly enabled, your logo is going to show up in these mailbox providers. You will note that Microsoft is not on this list. Unfortunately, they do not have support for BIMI logos today. If you've been around a while, you might remember that they had a prior sort of logo branding mechanism called brand cards. You might still see reference to that if you search online for it, but that is effectively dead. They don't support that anymore. So there is no way currently to implement a sender logo specifically for Microsoft. A lot of the rest of the email ecosystem is broadly covered though too, and we'll touch on percentages of that. You can see we've got some good brands in here, right? We've got Google, we've got Yahoo, Cloudmark, Fastmail, and a whole bunch of others. Oxygen was just recently announced that they added BIMI support. They are a Romanian-based B2B hosted mailbox provider, mail solution provider. They now support BIMI logos too. They're certainly not the biggest mailbox provider in the world, but the goal here is to encourage as many mailbox providers as possible to support BIMI so that you as a sender will have the broadest coverage of logos across your subscriber base when you're sending out email messages. And I put together some numbers just showing what I think a typical B2C consumer list breakdown is going to look like. This can help you sort of visualize where your logo is going to be seen. We've got a cool report too that can help you determine data like this from your actual who you're actually sending to, your actual subscriber base. And Mika can touch on that when we get a little further down the presentation. So there's a chance for you to be able to look at this and get live counts to see how many impressions would you get when sending to different mailbox providers. But if you don't have DMARC set up now, or you're not already a customer, and you just wanted to think about how broadly is my logo going to show when I implement BIMI, here's a good starting point for that if you're a typical US B2C sender. The key here for me is that Google, Yahoo, and Apple are really the biggest service providers that have coverage here where BIMI is going to show. You can see there's the requirements vary a little bit, right? The CMC logo, which we'll touch, CMC certificate rather, we'll touch on the difference between those two certificate types. That's only supported by Google today. So if you want the broadest possible coverage, you'll want a VMC certificate. And again, we'll touch on that when we get to the section on certificates. But just to give you some idea, if you have one type of certificate versus another, or none at all, right? You might get Yahoo coverage, but nowhere else. So if you want the broader coverage, certificates are how you do that. And here's where these different certificates are supported. The other, you saw that big list of mailbox providers. The other ones have different varying certificate requirements as well. But here's sort of the biggest ones that I wanted to highlight. Why would you do BIMI? It is a branding opportunity, first and foremost. It lets you control how you are branded in the inbox, and that can potentially give you a competitive edge. With our cool new BIMI simulator, which we'll talk about more here in a second, you can even look up a competitor's logo or look up a competitor's domain and see, have they implemented a BIMI logo? So it could be a case of you have a branding opportunity that a competitor hasn't thought of yet, or it could be that competitors are already implementing a BIMI logo, and if you want to catch up so that you're on parity with them, now is the time to implement that BIMI logo. BIMI also promotes trust in the inbox. The point of that is it's sort of a carrot and stick thing, right? It's the cherry on the top to show off that a sender has protected their domain against phishing and spoofing properly. That's why part of the specification is that DMARC has to be an enforcement or quarantine. By publishing a DMARC record at quarantine or enforcement, you're telling the world that it's not okay to spoof messages from my domain name, that all the mail I send is going to be authenticated properly, and if it's not authenticated properly, don't trust it. Time for another quick survey. Megan, if you please. This time our questions are, is your company at DMARC enforcement today? Does your company currently have BIMI set up? And does the Google News about CMCs, you might have heard about that recently, and Dean will touch on that here in a second. Does that news about the Common Mark certificate make you want to implement BIMI if you haven't already? Give folks a second here to vote. Do a little song, do a little dance while we're waiting. Take a sip from my little DMARC Wombat coffee mug. All right. Thank you, everybody, for filling out the survey. Appreciate you. And now, last bit of information I have to share here. How has BIMI grown over time? Now, the bottom part here is blue here is people who do not have a VMC or CMC certificate in place. So a lot of these are really more early adopters or technical people testing things out, right? Because the way this logo is implemented here, it's only going to show up at Yahoo. The red one here, these are domains that have VMC certificates in place. The source for this data is my top 10 million domains list. If you search online, there's various places you can get lists of top domains. And I specifically took a sample from a particular company that publishes this list of top 10 million domains by internet traffic. So it's not really ranking them by email popularity, but more by web popularity. And that was sort of the best I could get at to be able to just take a sort of industry-wide snapshot of how these different specifications have been adopted. My intent here was to try to pull that information together without sort of vendor bias in play there, right? Because we track a whole bunch of data internally. We've got smart, cool people like Trevor and Seth who track millions of domains to look at the growth of DMARC and BIMI and these different specifications over time. But that's very centric. It's very centered on our universe, right? So this 10 million domains list is just the top 10 million domains as defined by this company. I took that and I tried to pull from it how many of those domains have BIMI in place. And so you can see here from data most recently updated a couple months ago, about 17,000 of these, actually, no, over 23,000 of these domains now have BIMI. Last time I pulled it a few months ago, it was only at 17,000, I think, for overall. So you can see it's really growing month by month. Or you put you could call this glass half full, or you can call it glass half empty, right? Certainly under 25,000 of 10 million domains is not a lot, but that's still 25,000 companies who think a sender logo is important enough to want to implement it. So I think that's pretty significant. And so these are people that are really forward thinking and are paying attention to things like Yahoo and Google sender requirements, the necessary steps to protect a domain against phishing and spoofing, being marketing savvy to watch for additional and alternative ways to brand their email experience. So I think that's there's a good group here of smart and savvy senders that have implemented BIMI. And now with that, I will turn it over to Mika to talk about Valimail Amplify.
Thank you so much, Al. Yeah, so let's talk about the product that we have in place from Amplify side. So how to fast track BIMI with Amplify with our product. So you're seeing here 5 simple steps to take for Amplify and for BIMI configuration. The very first one that I'll mention is that you must be at enforcement, that it's a requirement for being BIMI ready and have BIMI configuration and implemented from your end. With Enforce, that it's our DMARC product, you have the possibility to configure and be at enforcement really quick. So one of those things that the very first requirement, we are able to support you with the enforcement journey with Enforce. So besides of that, and being an enforcement, and I like to also see it the other way around, that it's after all the enforcement journey, it's kind of a badge, it's kind of a trophy, having BIMI implemented and showing your logo within your mailboxes that are authenticating your emails. So once you're at enforcement, that we have this product to help you, we also have a world-class product support that helps you get the BMC or the CMC, in this case, that is the new certificate type, with our partner that it's DigiCert. So you can trust on our product support team that will help you in every single step of that certificate process that might have multiple steps in order to get it, to help you with continuous support there. The third one is that we also help you to format your logo. It has a special format, I think that it's called SVG Tiny PS. So we help you as well to get your logo in the proper format for getting your certificate as well. The fourth step here is to point your BIMI record to Valimail, and then the fifth one it's that Amplify takes care of the rest. So if we move to the next slide, we will see some visuals that I put together here for Amplify and also for Enforce. And what I want to represent here at the top right is how simple from our product it's to get into enforcement. Of course, you have a lot of journey before this one-click enablement for moving from none to quarantine or after to reject. But we have a world-class catalog for senders to facilitate you the way to identify the senders that are sending on your behalf, and also an entire management for your DKIM keys. And once you're ready, it's just with a one-click enablement that you are able to move to enforcement. But the start of this webinar, it's Amplify, and you have here also some visuals about Amplify, and this is what I was saying of Amplify takes care of the rest, because you just need to upload your certificate there at the top corner where you have the assets, and then you need to look into the list of domains and simply assign that certificate to the domain, and you will have BIMI configured. We will be hosting your certificate, and then your recipients will start seeing your logo and your brand with their mailboxes. So if we move to the next slide, please, thank you. We are going to see a brand new BIMI simulator feature that we are releasing today. This is meant to help you experience how BIMI could look like for your logo, for your brand. So if we move to the next slide, we will see some visuals. There are some mockups that we have here in this slide. And essentially it has 4 simple steps to simulate BIMI for you. You need to add your company name, your company email as well. It's also auto-populated, but you can, of course, edit it. And then you have to upload an image of your logo. And what Al was saying, that we are also allowing you to explore other domains or even other competitors as it's framed here, because BIMI is public data. We're able to get, if a specific domain has a BIMI record, you can just add here a domain, and we're going to provide you the if that domain has BIMI configured or not. So to recap, you will have this feature starting from today in your Valimail's account, Enforce, and also Monitor. If you don't have a Valimail account yet, it's as simple as going to our website and registering there and creating a free account in Monitor, and you will have this feature to play around with logos and also share this image with other teams from your company. We know that BIMI many times it's a shared effort across the companies, because marketing is involved, engineering is involved. So this provides visuals about how BIMI could look like, but also compare how the other domains or competitors could have or not BIMI. So two different scenarios that I want to provide here. If the domain that you're adding there as the competitor has BIMI implemented, that means that they are standing out in the mailboxes from the recipients, right? And then from the other way around, if they don't have, this is a great opportunity for you to stand out and start showing your brand for your recipients. So if we move to the next slide, I want to show you some new feature that I'll alluded to that it's upcoming. We will have these early next year. It's coming really soon, and it's a brand new report that we are building with DMARC information. Here we are providing you visibility into the potential that BIMI could have for your domains. As Al mentioned, there are multiple mailboxes that currently are supporting BIMI, like Gmail, Yahoo, Apple, or others, and others that are not. So in this specific report, what we are providing you, it's the total volume for your domains, and we are distinguishing between those mailbox providers that are receiving BIMI, that are supporting BIMI, and those that are not. So you can see the potential that your domains have actually, to see how many could have like brand impressions, and that will boost your brand recognition, and also for those that would not have BIMI implemented. If you already have BIMI implemented, this is also a great report for you to check into metrics and see how your BIMI is going and to which mailboxes the emails are landing as well. So that is for the things that we currently have in place, what is upcoming as well. So I want to also provide a quick recap for our solutions. So we have a streamlined process, reaching and also maintaining enforcement. The second one is that we provide continuous assistance and effective process when getting and also managing your certificates, partnering with DigiCert. And then the third one, it's also this brand new report that we will have to track BIMI audience and potential brand impressions. So again, I just want to encourage you, if you still don't have a Valimail account, go to valimail.com and you can easily register there for our free account, and you can start leveraging these features. And if you already have it, it's as simple as going to the application, logging in, and start utilizing the BIMI simulator as well, so you can simulate the BIMI experience for your company. So that is all from my side from the product perspective. Back to you, Al.
All right, thanks, Mika. Well, I wanted to highlight a couple of things on here because this is just so cool. BIMI Simulator is a fantastic way to be able to highlight, like Mika said, what your logo could look like before you go through all the work to do it. So you don't have to worry about converting it to an SVG yet. You can just drop in your PNG or JPEG and have it make a mock-up for you, and you can share that mock-up with others at your org to show that works. I love that. I think it's pretty cool. I already snuck an image from it into a blog post on my blog. I don't know if anybody noticed that yet, but I think it's pretty cool. The other thing here that I think is just delightful is the upcoming Audience Insights report. And in my history of a deliverability background for email service providers, when I was trying to sell the value of BIMI, or even to sell the breakdown of deliverability issues, if you're blocked at Gmail, what percentage does that list affect, for example? So this type of roll-up is stuff that I used to often help marketing clients calculate manually based on their subscriber databases. And so we here at Valimail, Mika and her team have found a way to be able to calculate this from inbound DMARC reporting that we are already collecting for you. That's a big deal. I think that's really cool. And that we can tell you, based on the feedback we're getting from Yahoo and Google and Apple and others, we can give you a pretty good idea of how many brand impressions, how many times across how many messages sent to how many people your logo would show up for them. So that can help you make the case for BIMI to show that if we implement a BIMI logo, it's going to get us this many email impressions. Or if we had implemented a month ago, a year ago, whatever, this is how many impressions we would have gotten from that. So I think that's really important to help understand exactly what the reach of your BIMI logo is. So stay tuned, that's coming soon. And now I would love to turn it over to Dean Coclin to talk about these wonderful verified mark certificates and common mark certificates and what they are, why they're so important to BIMI. Dean, take it away.
Sure, thanks, Al. And before I go into that, I want to stress the word or the term BIMI because brand indicators for message identification. Let's break that down. I mean, the first part of that, brand indicators. What does that mean? That means a logo. A logo is branding, and that's something that's extremely important to marketers. And the second half of that is message identification. What does that mean? Well, that can actually mean a security aspect. So when you think about message identification, well, I want to know who it's coming from. And BIMI helps with that by providing you a logo that you recognize, as well as all the DMARC benefits that were just described. So all those things add up to two words, logos and security. So if you take nothing else away from this webinar today, just remember, logos and security are the key aspects of BIMI. This is something that Valimail can help you with on the DMARC side, and this is where DigiCert comes in to talk about the aspects of the certificates that I'm going to discuss right now. So Al referred to verified marks and common marks. Most of the mailbox providers require you to have a verified mark certificate. At least the big ones like Apple and Google do require this. And this helps to verify the company that is behind the domain because we implement very strong validation before we can issue the certificate for that logo. We verify the domain. We verify the company is a real company. We verify the person works for that company. We verify that the logo is trademarked in the case of a VMC, or it has prior use in the case of a CMC. Then we also verify the person is a real person by doing a video call with that applicant and verifying their identification. So there's a lot of strong validation that goes behind VMCs and CMCs. And that's why these mailbox providers want to use them because they have good faith in the fact that they've been strongly vetted. The certificate is purchased from the certificate authority, in this case, DigiCert, on an annual basis. And as I mentioned, the vetting is very, very strong throughout the process. The VMC requires a trademark logo in one of 17 approved jurisdictions. Those jurisdictions are probably the largest ones for trademarks in the world. We have them on our website at digicert.com/VMC. A CMC, a common mark certificate, does not require a trademark. It just requires that a logo that you are submitting has been in use for at least a year. And we verify that using various sources, but the Wayback Machine is one way to check it. The pricing for these certificates are down below. There's a 1-year annual commitment to this, and we also have multi-year subscription models available for better pricing. Next slide. So the common mark certificate today is only supported by Gmail. So what that means is Gmail will recognize a common mark, and that's quite a big population of users when you look at about 5 billion Gmail mailboxes out there. Yahoo will effectively use this as a helper to say whether or not they should display that logo. So the common mark certificate gives you everything that a VMC does, except you do not get the blue check mark. So in Gmail, when someone has a VMC, the recipient will see the logo next to the from name, as well as a blue check mark. And when you hover over that blue check mark, it says that the logo has been verified belonging to the sender and the domain. With a CMC, you do not get the blue check mark, but you do get the logo. So there's definitely branding benefits and security benefits as well, given that the domain has been DMARC enforced. Next. So let's review again the differences between a VMC and a CMC. And I see questions coming in, so I'll try to go through this pretty slowly and make sure we don't get any errors here. But with the VMC, again, trademark in one of the 17 trademark jurisdictions, the trademark cannot deviate from the design unless the trademark office registration allows for that. So that means some registration offices say you can change the color, you can change the arrangement of the words, but quite frankly, most trademark offices do not allow that. So if you have a trademark with a very long word that's going to get really squished into that logo and you say, hey, can I put one on top of the other? Probably not. And that's where you might want to get a CMC. So a CMC does not need a trademark. As long as you've used it for at least 12 months prior, we'll verify that. And you'll get everything as you get with a VMC except no blue check mark. Or if you already have a trademark logo that you want to rearrange, like I just said, you can rearrange up to 49% of that logo and you can get a CMC. Again, no blue check mark with the CMC. So hopefully that explains that. Next slide. Okay, I'm going to turn it back to you, Al. And you're on mute.
Thank you, sir. Good times. Appreciate the breakdown there of the different types of certificates. And note too that CMCs are quite new, and we're still figuring out, for example, what exactly constitutes a 49% change of a logo. That can be up to interpretation, and I think folks are still finding their way a little bit. So I think if you run into a scenario where there's a lack of clarity or understanding, or you're wondering exactly what constitutes the different changes you can make, look for that to get developed out a little bit better over time. Mika, would you like to talk about the domain checker? No, I should, right? Because it's a marketing thing. Our Valimail domain checker is a cool tool on our website that lets you look up to see if your domain is ready to implement a BIMI logo. They'll break down your authentication status, what you are currently set to with DMARC, your policy level there. Are you at none or quarantine or enforce? But then for BIMI, it'll tell you if you have the right kind of BIMI record in place, is the logo matching the correct format and so forth. So if you've already implemented BIMI, or you've tried to do it yourself, or you're working with a different provider and you want a second opinion on is it implemented properly, or if you haven't done any of that and you just want to know what the next steps are to move toward setting up a BIMI logo, our domain checker is a great way to do that. It'll break down whether or not you have the certificate in place. It'll break down whether or not you have the logo with the right formatting and the right type of record in place, and whether your DMARC record is secure enough, if your policy is secure enough to be ready for a BIMI logo. So feel free to check that out. That's linked on our website, and you can see the URL there as well.
I use that every day, by the way. Great tool.
Love it. That's awesome. So here are some helpful resources in addition to the domain checker that we talked about on the last slide. As Mika said, anybody who signs up for Valimail is able to use the BIMI simulator. And that includes users of our free Valimail monitor. So you can go sign up for Valimail monitor for free. It is not a time-limited demo that expires or anything like that. You can go sign up, enable DMARC reporting now, and actually be able to see who is sending mail on behalf of your domain. Are there people out there phishing and spoofing your domain? Is that all set up correctly? What do you have authentication in place, every place necessary? Monitor can help you figure that out, in addition to being giving you access to the cool new BIMI simulator. It's also links to, and we'll send these out in the follow-up email so they're actually visible and clickable to show how you can increase Black Friday email open rates with BIMI, how to troubleshoot SVG tiny graphics for your BIMI logo. That's a tough one, by the way. It turns out to be surprisingly, from my perspective, something that we have to help a lot of clients with, because the SVG tiny PS format for a BIMI logo is pretty restrictive. Has to be very small in size, under 32K, I think. And there's a lot of things that you can put in a vector image nowadays that are not supported in BIMI logos. Types of transparency being one of those. So it's possible to draw a very cool logo in Adobe Illustrator that will not necessarily translate directly into a BIMI logo based on those format restrictions. And that's one of those places where we can step in and help you make sure that it converts exactly to what you want, or fix issues. If you use one of the online automated tools to try to convert it, you'll see sometimes it'll do very odd stuff. It'll turn a transparency to a black blob, for example. How do you correct that? we can help with that. We also have our complete guide to BIMI that goes through all of this stuff and a whole bunch more from start to finish, from soup to nuts. How do you, what is BIMI? How do you implement BIMI? Why you should implement BIMI? And what are the steps involved there? And of course, as Dean mentioned, you can go to digicert.com/VMC to learn more about VMC certificates and CMCs as well. They'll explain it all in detail there. The URL says VMC, but it's actually the home for both because that like I said before, the CMC is quite new. So folks are just sort of adding it on to their list of information specifically about BIMI certificates. So you can go to that URL, learn more both about VMC and CMC, or if you want to proceed with us, you can go to our website and click on the request a demo button, and we'll be happy to connect you with somebody to walk you through how Valimail Enforce and Valimail Amplify work to help you protect your domain against phishing and spoofing, as well as stand out with your brand in the inbox. Now, we certainly do have time for questions. If anybody has anything they'd like to ask, feel free to throw it in the chat there. Dean already did solid work there. Thank you, sir, asking about Microsoft and their roadmap, saying he's mentioned, actually, Dean, is it okay if I go ahead and read the answer here? I don't want to spill
Sure.
any beans.
That's
Cool.
fine.
Somebody had asked about Microsoft support, and you heard me touch on before specifically that they had that brand card system a few years ago, but not today. Somebody had asked about Microsoft support for BIMI, and Dean's answer was, while we are not from Microsoft and don't have insight into their roadmap, we have had conversations with Microsoft about BIMI and VMC, and they have shown interest in the solution. That said, we can't definitively say if and when they will support it. But with Gmail's 5 billion mailboxes, you get the benefit of a huge population of users with BIMI and VMC. And I think that's a valid point, right? I think we're certainly not in a position to spill any beans about what might come in the future with Microsoft. They haven't let me in on any of those secrets anyway. But certainly, if you were to nudge and ask Microsoft to consider BIMI, you would not be the first person to do that. You would also not be the first person on this webinar to do that. So please do suggest it if you work with Microsoft, or if you're a Microsoft customer, pass that feedback along, because we very much would like to see BIMI support at Microsoft. Here's a great question. Can corporations in Europe also get a VMC certificate? Dean?
Yeah, and the answer is most likely yes, because there are many trademark offices already approved in Europe. For example, Great Britain, Spain, France. The European Trademark Office is approved. I believe there are some Scandinavian countries also approved. I don't have the list right in front of me. But if you could type in the name of the country, Germany is also approved. Type in the name of the country. I can do a quick check and see if that one is approved. But if it's a European mark through the European Trademark Office, yes, that is approved.
I had somebody a few months ago who was in a country in South America that wasn't served by one of the certificate authorities. And so my suggestion to them was, if they're a company that works in multiple countries, maybe they have that logo registered in one of the trademark authorities of one of the other countries. That would allow them sort of to leverage their trademark registration in one of the 17 supported locales to proceed with a VMC. Now you've also got the option of CMC too, right? If you're not able to
True,
show.
and I see that he's showing it as in the Netherlands and Belgium, and I can tell you that the Benelux region is approved for trademarks.
That's right. I remember them from the list. I think you said DigiCert was or VeriSign was part of Symantec at a time. A million years ago in my history, I did online marketing for Symantec, and Symantec Benelux was actually a big region for them. So that's how I am familiar with what goes on in Benelux. All right, so that's cool. Looking through the questions here. Last call for questions here. If anybody else has got anything they'd like to ask, we'll give them a second or two. We're going to have a survey here as we wrap things up. If you want to, Megan, I think you could probably pop up that survey now, or is it something where we have to wait till we exit there? If it doesn't pop up, we'll assume that it's something that shows up upon exit. I think we have covered everybody's questions as well as we can today. Again, we'll Megan said yes, that survey will show up on exit. Thank you in advance for filling that out. Thank you so much for your time today. If you have follow-up questions, we're available. You can actually find me at al.iverson@valimail.com. I'm always happy to take your questions. That's also a backdoor thing for me to get ideas for my little Ask Al videos. So please fling questions at me. I love them. I'm happy to answer questions about BIMI and DMARC and anything else email authentication related or branding and logo related. We will send out a follow-up email with a recording and a summary of everything we talked about here and all those links. So that's it for today. Thank you so much, everybody, for your time. Have a great day, and we'll see you in the next one.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.